Yo, what's up, everybody? It's J5. On today's video, we will be going over our college football week 6 reactions. And then after our reactions, we're going to finish off the video with our top 10. Last week, we did our top 12 playoff predictions. This week, it's just going to be um, just our basic top 10, just how the AP puts out puts out their top 25. We're only going to have our top 10. So pretty much this video is going to be shorter than my last two videos because we're just focusing on 1 week, and we're only going to go over you know like I said, it's just our reaction. So pretty much majority of the top 25 teams, and just our reactions of what happened during this week 6 of college football. So let's get right into it. Reaction number one: Oregon versus Michigan State. Oregon won 31-10. That was a Friday night game. Nothing much in that game. Just impressive showing by Oregon. They have Ohio State this weekend, which I'm very very excited for. But honestly, I don't know if Oregon is completely prepared to see Ohio State. They had a decent enough schedule to feel comfortable, I would say. They played Boise State. They just played Michigan State. They played Oregon State, which was an ex rival when they were in the Pac 12. But I mean, Ohio State, we're different this year. And honestly, the only two teams I would say that would be like prepared to like play Ohio State would be Georgia, Alabama, and Texas. Um, I guess you can say Michigan, but um, I just don't think that Oregon is prepared enough for Ohio State. I'm not gonna dive into that matchup this weekend because we'll do that on Friday. But yeah, I just don't feel prepared. I don't feel that Oregon is prepared to see Ohio State. And if I was an Oregon fan, I wouldn't feel too confident going into this Saturday matchup. But I mean, they're at home, so it's going to be a good game regardless. Um, let's move on to the upset of the week, upset of the decade, pretty much. Bama, they lost 40-35 to Vanderbilt, and I mean that's college football for you. You go from beating Georgia, which was the number two team in the country at the time, to losing to an unranked Vandy team. And I just like, you know, first off, credit to Vandy. Um, it's like really is not much. Like I knew this game was gonna be a hangover game for Bama. I just thought it occur in the first half, first quarter of the game. Excuse me. But I mean, it went along all game, and they ended up losing. So I mean, full credit to Vandy, but it's just pretty embarrassing for Alabama. You just went out there, you beat Georgia, and then you flop against Vandy. But I mean, we all know that Bama has an explosive offense. I mean, they can score with anybody in the country, but it's about that defense. I mean, Vanderbilt just put 40 points on you. When has that ever happened? Um, So the defense, I think this Bama team they're gonna get in a lot of shootouts the rest of their season. They play Tennessee, they play LSU, and I mean, I wouldn't. They have to go to LSU and to Tennessee, and I mean, if I was a Bama fan, I wouldn't feel too confident, especially after seeing what my defense just did against Vanderbilt. So I mean, if their defense doesn't get right, um, within I mean, this week, I'm pretty sure they play South Carolina this week. If their defense doesn't get right, it's gonna be very very hard to win uh, at LSU and at Tennessee. So moving on, my team, my dogs, Ohio State versus Iowa. We ended up winning 35-7. Ohio State, our defense is elite. It's elite. We for sure had the number one defense in the country, top five offense. I've been saying it since my preview video, um, and we're fully prepared for Oregon. I know our schedule didn't set us up for it, but I mean, just the way that we've looked, the way that we've won our games, um, we're not, you know, our first half, our first quarters, they're not the prettiest, but I mean, it's like we almost like to play with our food a little bit. And then the second half comes around, and we just put the team to bed. So, like I said, I don't want to get into that Saturday matchup. So, but yeah, I just feel that we're fully prepared. I love our roster. We have dogs all across the team, and Jeremiah Smith again making highlight reel plays. Um, against against our Iowa, they're known to have a defense. Their defense this year is pretty solid, and I mean, even against a tough defense that we played this weekend, our offense ended up finding our foot. I want to say Will Howard threw for a little over 225 yards. Emeka, I think he had a big game. I believe he like 70 to 80 yards, but I know Travion and Judkins, they both had each at least 70 yards. So like I said, we could beat you on the ground, through the air. We can beat you in many different ways. And when our defense is, getting the opposing team's offense off the field instantly, um, and you're giving Ohio State multiple possessions in a half to go down there and score points, we're gonna take advantage of it, just based off the roster that we have. Um, Moving on, Tennessee, another upset. They ended up losing to Arkansas 19-14. I mean, could we have been? Could we have been? Could we have been bamboozled by Tennessee? Um, in both Nico's road starts, I mean, he's a freshman, SEC ball. He played on the road at Oklahoma, just played on the road against Arkansas, and in both games, I mean, he didn't look too good. Um, but I mean, they come back home this Saturday against Florida, so you expect things to look much better. But I mean, within these past 2 weeks, their offense just hasn't been elite how it's looked, and I mean that's simply because of the fact that the schedule that they started with. They played Kent State, and they put up 70 points against them. So I mean, obviously, when you're playing a school like Kent State, you're gonna look like a top 10, top five offense. But I mean, when they're going against conference play, things get real. You're playing on the road. I mean, a lot of things change. So when they play Florida on Saturday, what I'm going to be looking for is how they bounce back, how this offense looks. Because I mean, they're dealing with injuries on the wide receiver position. I mean, Dylan Sampson, he did his thing. Like I said in my previous video, I love Dylan Sampson. I love what he can do on the ground and in the air. So I mean, he had a good game, but Nico needs to be able to settle in on the road when they have those road games. Luckily, they play Bama at home, but looking ahead, they do play Georgia on the road. I believe. I believe it's on the road. But yeah, that's all it is for Tennessee. Their offense needs to get right. Penn State, they ended up winning 27-11 against UCLA. They continued to excel through the air, and as a Penn State fan, that's what you want to see. Drew Eller had 237 yards and a touchdown. Um, they play USC this weekend. Like I said, Friday we'll do a nice little prediction for those games. But like I said, that's what you want to see out of Penn State. You're able to win through the air and on the ground if you have to, and then you know that they're always going to have a very dominant defense, very physical defense. So I mean, Penn State's looking really good to start the year. Georgia, they did what they had to do. They beat Auburn 31-13. Like I said, they did what they had to do, but I mean, they put up 31 points. It The scoreboard doesn't really show like the type of performance that Georgia had. To me, it really wasn't that dominant. Um, but like I said, they did what they had to do. I just believe that this was the type of game to get them back into the groove of things. They have Texas this following weekend, so we'll have another judgment on Georgia then. But I mean, like I said, they did what they had to do. Moving on to Miami, uh, a 35-10 comeback win against Cal. Um, Miami secondary, they need to get right. We know with Chris Paul, he's gonna build up the trenches. He has a great O line, he has a great D line, but that secondary, I mean, if Miami wants them to be something, when it comes to the playoffs, if they get into the playoffs, which I predict that they will, if Miami wants to be something and have a run, I mean, this secondary they need to get right. Just too many explosives, too many blown coverages, too many missed tackles in the secondary. We know that Cam Ward is going to be able to score with anybody in the country, but I mean, if you have a defense that's not able to get stops, um, ultimately one of these games you're going to run out of time. So they need to be able to get consistent stops on defense. Secondary needs to get much better. Um, so that's what I'm going to be looking out for Miami in these next few weeks. I mean, but another Heisman moment for Cam Ward. Um, he didn't play the best first half, but when his team needed him, he was able to get the job done and lead his team to a comeback win. Missouri versus A&M. I knew Missouri was not good. They got rolled by A&M, 41-10. Um, like I knew Missouri would lose this game, but just not like that. I thought they would put up some type of fight, but I mean this game was over by the first half. I believe A&M put up, I want to say like 24, 28 points, in the first half. But flipping over to the A&M side of things, if Connor Wingman is playing like that, like he played like he had a chip on his shoulder. I mean, if you've been watching, he dealt with a shoulder injury and he was out. I believe it was 3 games. So freshman quarterback Marcel Reed came in, and Marcel Reed he was looking really good. I mean, he won the games that he played, and if Weeman is just playing with that chip on his shoulder and he's airing the ball out, he's looking like I mean, he was the number 2 quarterback in his class. So I mean, if he's playing like that all the time, I mean, A&M they're becoming a threat. I'm predicting this early. When they play LSU, I believe that they're going to beat LSU, and I mean that last game of the season against Texas, A&M's at home, rival game. I'm not putting that past A&M that they won't be able to upset. But I mean, that's if they continue this type of football that they're playing. Uh, I love the way that this team is looking. Um, they may have if they depending on what they do against LSU and Texas, they have a path to get into the playoffs. Moving on to USC, unfortunate, honestly. Another upset. They lost 24-17 to Minnesota, and just like I said, very unfortunate. It's really like Michigan took USC's soul in that game. It was looking like USC was gonna be defeated. I mean, undefeated again. After that Michigan game, but I mean, they ended up choking the game. They didn't look perfect against Wisconsin. I mean, but they got the job done, and then they just weren't able to do enough on the road against Minnesota. So they ended up losing. But I mean, welcome to the Big Ten, USC. They started with Michigan, then played Wisconsin, and then they just lost to Minnesota. And I mean, this week they have Penn State. So welcome to the Big Ten. But after their Week 1 game against LSU, it was looking like this USC team was going to be a playoff team. I'm not saying that they can't anymore, but I mean, we just didn't expect we didn't after that LSU game. We just didn't expect them to lose against Michigan, especially the way that Michigan was looking, and then for them to have a upset loss against Minnesota. It's like you really need to beat Penn State this weekend. Um, so let's move on to Michigan. Michigan is completely cooked. I said this in my last video. They're cooked. There was another quarterback change mid game. Jack Tuttle, he came in. Um, he looked pretty good to when he did come in. He looked good in that first half. He looked good in the third quarter. Fourth quarter came around. He had a fumble, and that led to a Washington touchdown that gave Washington the lead. And then the next drive, he ended up throwing the game losing interception. So, like I said, Michigan is completely cooked. There's nothing really more to say with Michigan. Um, Good thing that they won the national championship last year because they got some dog days coming. Ole Miss, like Georgia, Ole Miss did what they had to do. They ended up winning 27-3 against South Carolina. Trey Harris did go down with a knee injury or lower leg injury. It was. Um, right now, it's not looking like he's gonna play this Saturday, but uh, that that's gonna be a really big loss for them. But like I said, they did what they had to do. I'm not putting it past them that they still won't be able to get the job done this weekend. But Ole Miss they really need to win this game because they ended up getting upset by Kentucky last weekend. So well 2 weekends ago. Um, so they really need this game against LSU. Moving on to Clemson, 29-13 win against Florida State. I mean Clemson they continue to look good. I don't believe Clemson's gonna end up losing again. They play Louisville at home, and I mean Louisville they don't look the best right now. And then they play Pitt on the road. So I mean those are the two games that they could lose. But I mean we've seen a lot of upsets. Uh, I mean we just seen a lot of upsets happen. So, but my prediction is Clemson won't lose again, and they're gonna see Miami in the ACC championship. Moving on, my last reaction: Boise State. They ended up winning 62-30, and I mean Ashton Gency. I mean I said it. I said it last video. Another Heisman performance, and right now he's the current favorite. Um, if he keeps this up, which I think he will, in my opinion, he completely deserves the Heisman Trophy because, like I said, I mean he's literally carrying Boise State into a playoff spot. And I would love to see Boise State in a playoffs just so that Genty can get a national televised game and really showcase his talents. We true college football fans, they know what Genty's doing and they know how impressive it is. But I mean, for an average fan that just watches the big games, the Ohio State games, the Texas games, they're not looking at Boise State. So I mean, if we were to get Boise State on a national televised game, uh, playoff game, and if Genty is able to go crazy, I mean, it's just going to be really really exciting to see Genty perform a in a playoff game. It's like because like I said, when he played Oregon that week 2 game, I believe it was, he went crazy then. He had over 150 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, if he's doing that against Oregon, which they're a playoff team, I mean, to me, he can do it against anybody. Um, so that's all my reactions for week 6. Week 6. Let's move on to my top 10. And then that'll close this video out. So number 1, I have Texas. Um, I would have loved to put. I mean, I honestly could put Ohio State at number 1, but I'm just gonna put. I'm gonna no because I mean Texas that win over Michigan, it doesn't look that good anymore. Just because of the way that Michigan has played, but I have it down right here. I'm just gonna leave it there because after Ohio State wins on Saturday, we will be number 1. So let me continue. Texas number 1, Ohio State, number 2. Penn State, number 3. Georgia, number 4. Oregon, number 5. And you're probably thinking, why is Georgia ahead of Oregon, even though Georgia has a loss? That's just because I'm thinking of it as, if Georgia was to see Oregon right now, I believe Georgia will win. And I just like the way that Georgia has looked. Even this past weekend, although they didn't look that dominant against Auburn. I just like their consistent play throughout the year. Oregon, they didn't start that well, but they're pretty much they found their footing. So that's the only reason why I have Georgia ahead of Oregon. And your next question is probably like, so do you think Penn State could beat Georgia? No, I don't. Just Penn State has been consistent all season. Number 6, I have Miami. Number 7, I have Clemson. Number 8, I have Bama. Number 9, I have Ole Miss. And number 10, I have Tennessee. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Let me know down in the comments your top 10. Share this video to someone who may be interested. Turn on that post bell notification so you guys don't miss any of my uploads. And look out for my Friday video where I take a look at these big week 7 matchups that we have. That's going to do it. J5 out.